this has to be one of the weirdest tanks in World of Tanks, and yeah, this is not what I was expecting when I first saw it, at least in terms of how it plays. And today we're going to be looking at, of course, the Lemon Rush, or the Le Mans Russ. I don't know how you want to call it, but either way, it is, of course, one of the Warhammer 40k tanks that they've brought into the game, and I'm not particularly a big fan of what it looks like. I mean, it looks pretty cartoony, etc., and I don't think it fits with the game, but it is what it is, and it's in the game at tier 10 as a premium tank, and it is a premium mercenary vehicle. And yeah, definitely an interesting one for sure, and it is actually pretty good. And we're going to look at two gameplays in just a second, but first of all, we are going to have a look at how the tank plays, the stats of the tank, whether it is actually quite good, and all of that. So we'll get into that now, and of course you can see my setup here. We've got advanced loader so that we can increase the damage per minute, because this tank, you want to be able to deal a lot of damage as quickly as possible when you're playing in these slow heavy tanks. We've gone for gun stabilizer for the extra accuracy when playing with this vehicle, so that we can essentially deal that damage more consistently. You don't want to be missing, etc., when you're playing with the tank like this. And then we've gone with the traction system to increase the top speed, and of course change and increase the chassis and hull rotation speed so that we can turn quicker, because this is not particularly the fastest of the turning vehicles that you'll see at tier 10, at least in terms of a heavy. Now, we've covered the basics of the equipment. Obviously, I'm running full premium consumables with food. I wouldn't bother taking a fire extinguisher in basically any of my vehicles, so I very rarely will showcase the consumables. Essentially, the one that I would drop first is the med kit, just to a normal med kit. I mean, there's not much point in having the top one, but it's there in case you need to replenish it. And essentially, yeah, the food just is a massive bonus on console, so I'd really advise anyone who has any kind of level of credits to actually spend them on the enhanced rations, because it just makes your tank perform so much better. But key thing, what are the stats of this vehicle? So first things first, let's have a look at the top speed. So with the speed boost equipment, of course, adding an extra 3.5 kilometers an hour to the top speed, a base top forward speed of 35 kilometers an hour, and to be honest with you, it feels kind of agile. As much as I wouldn't want to say it is, given its speed, it seems deceptively fast, even though it really isn't. And I guess that's to do with maybe the power to weight ratio being okay for a heavy tank. Nothing spectacular in any regards, but yeah, it does not feel that slow when you're playing, which is obviously a benefit, because you don't want to be feeling like you're slow even if you are. So yeah, really nice one in terms of that. You've only got a 15% fire chance anyway if they hit your engine, so it's pretty low, so no point taking a fire extinguisher in this. You've got 2,500 hit points, which is a big plus for this vehicle considering its armor model. We'll get into that in a second. You're seeing I've got 465 meters of view range. You've got over max view range with this heavy, and we aren't taking any bonus to your view range, so you could potentially take advanced optics, but we're not going with that in this build, and maybe you could take vents, depends on which way you want to run it, but this seems to be the best all-round build for this vehicle. And then, what else do we have? Well, we have, of course, the turret rotation speed, which is bad. I mean, it is very noticeable in the game, 23.89 degrees a second. That's all of the bonuses applied to it, with absolutely everything you could possibly put on this tank, and it's still pretty lackluster. And then you combine that with the hull rotation speed of 28.6 degrees a second, totaling just over 50 degrees a second combined, and that means it's going to take you 7 seconds to do a full rotation of your vehicle, which means getting out traversed in this vehicle is quite easy. And because you have big tracks that are visible to everyone, it doesn't take a genius to knock them out and be able to track you in place, and that happens quite easily with this vehicle. So that is one of the weak points of the tank. You've also got 7 degrees gun depression, which actually feels more like 3 degrees. It really does not feel all too good when you are playing this. But the good thing that you do have is decent accuracy and a very consistent main armament, which gives you 500 damage. Really nice to have that. It's not common along the tier 10 heavies. Usually it's 490 or going up to, you know, 750 if you're looking at an E100, etc. But yeah, really decent, and it is fairly good at reloading. You've got a 9-second reload or just above with all of the perks that we have equipped and the equipment, which means, yeah, pretty good DPM of 3,265, which is up there with some of the base values of the medium tanks at tier 10. Of course, they go up to like 4,000 when you are using all of the perks, but it's still not bad, and it was definitely not noticeable in the game to feel like, you know, you're limited. It is definitely not a Centuro 45T in terms of its damage per minute, but this one, pretty decent. Aim time, not particularly the greatest, but you can't really get everything, and it's kind of nice that they are introducing a tank that is more well balanced than some of the others. You can see here on the right hand side we have penetration values of 232 on the standard, which is pretty bad, and 304 on the premium ammunition, which is basically why I only fired premium. But it's not just the reason, because the main reason is in fact the ammo speed, and the standard rounds are very slow. And I thought that this would be a problem, and it definitely is. 830 meters a second is fairly slow for a AP round, and yeah, when you use your premium, only 918. So there are no APCR rounds, which literally travel probably just under double the speed, which means leading people with this vehicle, you know, getting quick, easy shots into people, not particularly the easiest thing to do, and especially if you are like an avid auto-aim fan, this is going to be awful for you. Just going to miss everything, as you probably should if you're auto-aiming people when they're moving. But you know, you definitely need to take note of it because it is a hindrance with this vehicle. So sniping at long ranges, not particularly well suited to this tank, but then it is a heavy tank, so I wouldn't be expecting it to be anything like that. And then we go down to the premium bonus. Are there any? No, there aren't any premium bonuses other than 5% more tank XP, which is, yeah, pretty useless, to be honest with you. It's not going to give you anything unless you convert your XP into crew XP, and even then there are way better tanks to be able to do that with. But either way, very, very fun tank to play, and I guess now is the time to actually show it in action. So the first game that we do have is on Vineyards, and this is a map that, once again, always really enjoy. I'm sure you guys are used to hearing that if you've been watching the videos for any length of time. And of course, there are now 15,000 of you, so thank you very much to everyone who has, of course, subscribed. And if you haven't, what are you doing? Go on. You can always click it. No, I'm only joking. But either way, yeah, thank you guys for all of the support throughout the couple of years that we've been doing it. Either way, in this game, we're going to see what this thing can do. And I was pleasantly surprised. You know, I was thinking the armor is very flat on the front of the tank, to the point where I was thinking, you know what, you're just going to get penned by everyone. And of course, anyone loading premium was just going to pen you right through the front. But luckily, we've managed to bounce one shell so far. So, you know, that's a good start. At least we haven't been penned every single time we've taken a hit. Just, I guess we'll have to test that as this game goes on. But you can see here, finding the opponents that cross, easy way of getting free damage at the beginning of the game, and then you can move to a different position if you are interested. We go for a bit of a lucky shot on the M48, but don't manage to hit it, no problem there. So, Vineyards, this spot is, once again, as I say, a decent spot at the beginning, but it can dry up very quickly, so you have to be aware of that. Unfortunately, we can't pen the M48A2's turret, which is, yeah, I'm not that surprised. But you can see we've blocked 1,860 damage. That's partly due to the fact that the Tyran on the enemy team has bounced off of us. So, you know, if this tank can bounce a Tyran, at least it might be okay. Now we try and go for the damaging and tracking shot on the Yahtzee, but apparently only managed to track it. And then the TNH comes out at like the most opportune moment, so we don't even manage to get any damage on him. And then we, of course, blind fire the Manticore, who goes undetected and stays in the exact same spot. So, yeah, nice little free shot of damage on him. And you can see we've picked up 2,250 blocked damage. So the tank can bounce rounds. And at a distance, it's a lot harder to snipe the weak points of this tank. They're a lot less noticeable. It does have a turret cupola which can be penned. It also has a frontal kind of pillbox that can be penned as well, so you can aim for that. It's really well or not well angled, which means you can basically pen it with premium rounds, and unfortunately you are just going to have to fire premium rounds if you come up against this tank, since it's one of those where, you know, much like an E100, it works until people fire premium and then it just doesn't work. So it's the same sort of tank in terms of its armor layout, but this one is a lot smaller, so trying to be able to hit this thing is a lot more unreliable than you would see with the E100. So that's a good thing for this tank, of course, but unfortunately, since the price of this tank is absolutely ridiculous, I think it's about $80 or something like that for one tank at the moment. I don't know if they're doing the discounts. I believe that this one is part of the discounts at some point during the next this operation that we've got for the 40k collaboration. But yeah, a very expensive tank if you just want to buy it outright, and I'm not surprised since it is a tier 10 premium and they are all ridiculously expensive, so it might be worth getting if it does go on sale for, like, you know, 40% off, and you are interested in this tank. Don't go buying it for the sake of it. I'm not going to promote you to go out and buy this thing for the sake of having it, or if you think that it might be good, you know, make sure that it does actually suit your playstyle, etc. But you can see there I grossly overestimated the shell speed, and of course we miss, which is something that you will probably do at the beginning couple of games, as this was my first one. I really didn't know how fast these rounds would be. So it kind of sucks with regards to that. So that's one of the problems that I did find. But if you do kind of learn that the tank is not going to be able to hit things that reliably at distance, then you get to know where you should be leading your tank shells so that you can hit more consistently. So not too bad. But so far 2,500 both damage and block damage, so yeah, hopefully we can progress in this game. Unfortunately, this position is usually comes to this point where, you know, you can't really do a lot. There's a lot of the tanks have kind of disappeared and you're just basically sat here not doing a great deal. But if you are in this position, there are alternatives which you can do, but in a tank that's pretty much this slow, and I was wanting to push as soon as my team spotted what was over on this side, we would make that push and therefore, like, advance towards the opponents, get a little bit of damage. But you can see here, bad aim by me, absolutely shocking aim in fact. So we miss out on the free damage on the back chat that we could have got, but we pull back now because I am hesitant as to what can hit me. The one thing that you should always be scared of is the left hand side being able to hit you by the castle, because it is quite an easy place for people to hit you, so just be aware of that. You can see me here just trying to find this EBR 105, and we do manage to hit him, but of course we only manage to damage the wheel of the vehicle, because, you know, French tanks and all of that, you can only manage to damage their tracks or damage their wheels if they're a wheel light tank. But so far looking pretty decent in terms of how the team is doing, and our hit point looks like the majority of our tanks are on good hit points. Enemy tanks are not looking so good, so we're not going to kind of throw away our hit points, and at this point I'm just trying to get some kind of speculative shots out there, trying to go for this Skoda T56. And the good thing about this tank is it has a 130mm cannon, which means that you are far more likely to pen a lot of the tanks that you'll be seeing if you hit their cupolas, etc., than you would see with some of the other vehicles that have weaker caliber guns or smaller caliber guns. So that's always a good feature of this vehicle. You can see me here just trying to find that cupola shot. We don't manage to hit it. We actually hit the spaced armor guard on the front of the Skoda there, which is unfortunate, but you know, we're not going to have any problems coming up against a TNH. And once again, my aim being absolutely shocking. But the TNH for some reason decides he's going to YOLO. He then gets tracked by the artillery piece, and then we try and track him again, which is good. And I don't know if he actually got tracked again, but I'm pretty sure he did, so maybe he was carrying 2 repair kits. I don't know why you'd do that, but maybe I was just wrong in that assumption. At this point, I'm just trying to get rid of this light tank. He's being an absolute nuisance and spotting our team. It's the real reason that I haven't pushed up at this point. And although camping in this spot is It's detrimental in the long term if you are just to sit here. Like, you know, you need to deal with the light tanks, otherwise you're just going to be pushing into a Tyrann, and if the Tyrann goes, we can then successfully deal with the rest of the game. You're seeing me here not wanting to get really stay in this spot, because of course the Tyrann was last spotted over in like G2 area, so we don't want to get spotted, and we definitely don't want to get spotted and stay in one position that the Tyrann can then hit us in. So I peek up here, I'm just trying to get back into this spot, and maybe we can find some shells on this light tank and get him out of the game. And then of course there comes the shell. I don't know if it was from the EBR 105 or the Tyrann, they're in the same sort of line. So I didn't want to risk it, and we just kind of poked this area. Maybe we can get a free shell into the turret of the Skoda T56, which of course doesn't happen with the accuracy and of course the shell velocity. So this is the problem with this tank, is if you are trying to snipe, yes, you can hit them every now and again like that one. A little bit lucky to hit the cupola there, well, quite a lot lucky, but you know, you don't hit the ones that you don't take, and when we're in this sort of position, there's no point in not taking the shot. So we try and get that elevation. We managed to somehow pen the Tyrann. I genuinely thought that only hit the track, but apparently managing to get lucky. And yeah, once again, just trying to find this Skoda. Once he's gone, that's good. That's a 900 damage shell that is removed, because, you know, 2 lots of 460 damage on that vehicle, 920 total. So if you do get caught out by that thing, you can lose, what, like over half of the hit points we have remaining. And then if you were to get hit by a Tyrann at the same time, you'd lose another 950. So yeah, nice to get rid of the high alpha tanks, and luckily the Tyrann goes, and that enables us to now move. So the holding back of this game was all to do with the Tyrann. We didn't really know what was going to go on. I was just checking the team composition, make sure that we aren't doing anything stupid, or at least not knowing what the tanks are. But yeah, now I just go, since there's no point in holding back, and we want some extra damage when you've done 4,600. And you can see here the enemy tanks just bouncing off of us. Looks like it's a bat chat, since the rounds are coming in pretty reliably. We go for the YOLO shot on the bat chat, since he's going to be moving down the hill anyway, so we weren't going to hit him if he pulls back down there, so you may as well shoot. It's often a thing that people don't do. They think, oh, try and fully aim, when obviously you're never going to be able to fully aim and get the shot anyway, so you might as well go for it. You can see me here getting a lucky shot on the EBR 105. I mean, it went where I was aiming, which is why it actually hit, but it was lucky that we actually managed for it to go where I was aiming, and once again on the back chat. But the dispersion of this vehicle allows you to do this, so it's really, really good actually, considering the fact that when you are moving, usually the tank's bloom is pretty bad, especially if you have high alpha like this sort of tank does. But yeah, a really nice game to start off with, and it was the first one. I was pleasantly surprised that we managed to bounce 3,700 damage. Granted, some of it was from that bat chat and being hit by the Tyrann, which was nice. But yeah, it definitely held up throughout the entirety of the games I played. I actually played more than I usually would for a review, so that I could, you know, I was just enjoying playing the tank. So at least that says something about it. And it was also not a tank that was boring for me, because usually the tanks that are boring for me are the overpowered ones, things like the Tyrann and the AVRE and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, they're just boring to play, whereas this one actually felt pretty rewarding when you did have a decent game. And talking about a decent game, the next one is even better. So Lemon Russ on one of the maps that, you know, I'm not too fussed on. I think that there's a little bit for everyone, but it is, it's okay. I'm not a particularly massive fan, but either way, we can push forward on this map, and I like going into a position in D5 and 6 and then moving from there to go to the flank that's needed, since that will basically give you some early damage, so you can get damage on people crossing that are going into the southern part of the map. Which is nice, gives you some, you know, if we can land 2 or maybe even 3 shells potentially, it's nice, or even if we only land 1, it's still going to be a good little bit of free damage. So you can see also the light tanks crossing into the center of the map, and you can see there's a medium over there as well, which appears to be a Dragon, so hopefully we'll be able to hit him and be able to pen him or something. You can see the Dragon is now poking. We do go for the lucky shell, and luckily we managed to hit. But he decides he isn't going to then re-poke us, so I'm not that surprised considering the amount of tanks we have around here. And now we get, this is the spot that I was on about. So instantly we got 1 shot of damage, bearing in mind it was quite lucky. But now we should be able to find some people who might cross over on this side. Now whether this actually happens or not is unknown. But you can see here, this is the lack of gun depression. It's supposedly 7 degrees. I genuinely not entirely sure. I think it might actually be 7 degrees if you are looking over the side of the tank. I'm not entirely sure. Wargaming don't actually give us a kind of armor or depression value indicator, so you don't know where the maximum depression of your vehicle is. So that's kind of disappointing. But yeah, once again, like I said at the beginning, when you go to this position, you can essentially then move to wherever you're needed the most, and that is exactly what we're doing here. I decide no point in sitting around at the back. We find that there is a Jaeger out in the open, and this is where not having heat rounds as your premium ammo is not particularly fun, since the Jaeger are at that sort of range with APCR rounds, which don't get normalization. And normalization is essentially where with something like a heat round, your heat round will dip down into the armor, so you end up actually reducing the angle of the armor because the round is dipping down. APCR flies straight, which means wherever you're aiming at the armor, that is the effective armor, whereas a heat round will kind of not literally loop, but it will do a sort of loop that hits the target, and then you're more likely to bounce. So that's kind of the precedent as to why heat rounds are quite good against angled armor, whereas APCR not so much. And you can see here we're able to pen the Skoda T56. He actually pens us in return, so I was a little bit surprised about that, considering that tank doesn't have the best of penetration. But we go for that tracking shell into the Skoda, locking him down, keep him in there, and therefore we can just get some easy damage. I'm doing the exact same thing, and of course we don't manage to pen. We must have hit the tracks and gone down into the ground instead of down or through into the actual armor. He then YOLOs a shot and we finish him off. So a nice little 2,500 damage done. And the good thing about this tank is you can be aggressive. And we're going to see a little bit of aggression towards this Rhinoceronte in a minute. Now I decide, maybe I could go over this side, but then I realise going over on this side on my own, probably not a good idea. There's not really a lot of team support, so maybe if I go over here and he decides to like kind of YOLO in, we'll be able to get a little bit of team support if I do manage to mess it all up. And maybe I do mess it up in a minute. Oh god, maybe I do. But either way, I've got a little bit of assistance, 173. The tank isn't particularly amazing at getting assistance, but it is good at kind of getting up close and personal, and it can be a really, really fun tank to kind of get up close and personal with, since you do feel rewarded for kind of being that aggressive tank. The only problem is as you can see here, having that gun depression is really annoying, and it's actually quite limiting when you are on a slope. I tried going for the side of the turret of the Rhinoceronte, but it didn't end up working. And you can see me now making the misplay here. So I decide, maybe I can actually push towards him. Nope, that was a bad idea, because when you've got 50 degrees a second traverse speed and they can get around the side of you so they pen you every single time, it's not a good idea, Eclipse. So yeah, what a... that was definitely a misplay, but I try locking him off and stopping him from getting around the side of him by putting my tracks in here, but it isn't working. And instead I decide to go down. I then make another misplay, obviously getting a little bit triggered at this point because I'm just messing around when I should really be able to take this guy out. And then we of course get super lucky and manage to set him on fire. But, you know, I mean, he hit us once and he fired quite a few, so at least the armor model held up and we managed to block 2,500 damage so far and pick up 4,250. And that's the sort of thing that this tank can do. Its armor is very reliable, and I don't think I actually got taken out when I actually played this tank. So yeah, I never really saw it in an overwhelming odds scenario where you had like a ton of enemy tanks all coming at you at once. I mean, any tank in the game will pretty much be removed in that sort of case, but it's still very, very powerful in terms of its armor model, even though I thought it would be useless. I'm not going to lie, I thought this tank would be pretty lackluster. I didn't think it would be able to get any real amount of damage, but it proved me entirely wrong. And that's something that, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised about. So yeah, big thumbs up from me in terms of how this tank plays. And I think although I don't like the cosmetic aspect and I don't think it fits World War II tanks and stuff, I can't complain that much. I mean, it's a game we play on the internet. I don't think we need to really worry about it. I mean, we have tanks that weren't even invented in the game, and just made up tanks already, like mercenary tanks. As much as I don't want to see continuous development of things like this all of the time, you know, it's not hurting anyone, and if it brings money into the game in terms of the collaboration and, you know, Warhammer paying for that collaboration with World of Tanks, then it's good for me, because that means we get more money for development into the game. So you have to think about it in that way, that yeah, maybe we have to put up with tanks that don't particularly look the nicest, but it's whatever it is. And yeah, you can see us up against one of the oldest premium tanks in the game, the Mutant, or the M6A2E1 as it's actually known. And this tank, not particularly the greatest vehicle, and certainly nowhere near a match for this tank. And the only tank that I'm a little bit worried about is the Type 5 Heavy, since I wasn't sure if he loaded heat he would be able to pen us. We try and go for that little gunner's hatch there, but don't manage to pen, since it went just right of it and ended up hitting the actual armor. And then we go for the tracking shot. I was hoping to actually deal damage there, but yeah, no, didn't manage to do that either. So this is where having, you know, those 300mm of pen can be a little bit disappointing if you do come up against like these super heavy tanks, you know, the Type 5s or the Mauses, where you do just need like super high pen to reliably pen them, without, you know, getting slightly unlucky if you were to aim at the lower plate and it hit somewhere else. You know, it just gives you that extra bit of flexibility when you do have higher pen, but it's nothing to worry about really. And yeah, a decent game as well in this tank, and it seems like a lot of people have been playing this quite well, because 1600 base experience was indeed only a 95% badge. So yeah, I mean, this tank has obviously been performing, and you can see there 6,500 combined damage, a pretty good heavy tank, and I'm very pleased with how Wargaming implemented this one, even if it isn't what I would expect from a World War II tank in quotation marks. But hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, and once again, thank you all for 15,000 subscribers. Really massive appreciation to you guys, and it's amazing that we've even got to this point. So yeah, I'm just astounded. But thank you guys. Make sure that you stick in for tomorrow's video, where we look at the Nemesis, and then the day after that we then have the most broken of the mercenary tanks, the Ignis Purgatio, whatever you want to call it. That Cold War vehicle is absolutely disgusting, and it is coming soon, so stay tuned, because that video will be awesome, and I really enjoyed playing that tank, probably because it was overpowered. But either way, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.